Brian, this is a video about the conditional formatting and the formulas, whether they are in A1 reference style or R1C1. I have two columns of numbers here, and I'm going back to the Basecamp conversation. So I did make an error here in one of these formulas, but let's just go with this formula. Um, And I wasn't quite right on this first part either. So I'm going to take this formula. If A1 is less than 7 or B2 is greater than 200. And I'm going to apply that just to this first column here. So I'm going to go to conditional formatting, manage rules, new rule, use a formula, and I'm using this formula. So A1 is less than 7 or B2 is greater than 200, and I'm going to make it a red fill and a white font. And I'm going to say apply. Looks like I made a little error there. I pasted it in there and I ended up putting quotes around it. So what I actually want is this. All right, hit apply. Okay, here we go. So this one is not red because it's neither less than, this one's not less than 7, or B2, which is uh, th this and then here, right? So this cell here is not greater than 200, I believe is our formula. This one is red because this is less than 7, this is less than 7, this is less than 7. This is not less than 7, but, and again, we're not looking at B2, we're looking at the relative reference to this. So A1 would be the cell itself. B2 is one cell over and one cell down. This is 202, and it is greater than 200, so that makes this cell red. This one is less than 7, this one is not less than 7, and this number is not greater than 200. This is less than 7, etc. So you get the idea. Now, if I go into VBA here and I say selection, format conditions 1, formula 1, it says A1 is less than 7, B2 is greater than 200. Well, we knew that, right? We put that in there. But what if I go all the way down to row 12 here and say, what is the formula for this format condition? It says the same thing, and it doesn't seem to make sense because we're not really looking at A1, we're looking at A12 here. So the reason for that is that this conditional format applies to this entire range. And so I think that when you use a relative reference like that, Excel figures it out. It goes, oh, well, you're within A1 through A12, and so when you say A1, you're really meaning the same cell, etc. It's kind of confusing. So I can go to any one of these, and it says A1 is less than 7, B2 is greater than 200. So you would think that you could just use this if you want to compare several different conditional formats. If they have the same formula, they are the same, and therefore you can merge the ranges. However, watch what happens here. I'm going to copy this conditional format. I'm going to paste it down here. And now I'm going to go here and say, well, what is the conditional format formula here? Well, now it's A19 is less than 7 and B220 is greater than 200. So that breaks up. So if I, copy the exact same basic conditional format to a different area, I have two different formulas. Now I'm going to have two different format conditions. In fact, if I go under here and say manage rules and say this worksheet, you see I have two. So I want to merge those two together. I want to list them in one conditional format, even because they're the same, basically. But how would I recognize them? Because they have different formulas. That's where my whole point here is. If I use application dot convert formula, and this is the formula from A1 to R1, C1. Now it's RC is less than 7, R1, C1 is greater than 200. Now I'm on row 19 right now. Now I'm going to go up to row 1 and ask for the same information. Okay, these two are identical. I'm going to go here. Boom. Uh-oh. Okay, so I had a little uh-oh there because I was looking for the R1C1 reference to on row 6 here, and instead of getting the exact same formula, I'm getting R negative 5 and R negative 4 on this. So I discovered that the reason for that is, first of all, I'm doing a conversion here, so it doesn't know anything about the fact that I'm working with a conditional format. It's just taking this raw formula and converting it, and so that's why we're getting. That's one thing. But one of the things in this convert formula is something here called relative to. So first of all, I'm going to make this to absolute be. I'm just going to put a comma there, and I'm going to say it's relative to. What I'm going to put in here is whatever this whole block of conditional formatting is referring to, right? So this conditional format is referring to this range, all right? But this argument only wants one cell, so I'm just going to say range. Well, I know that it's A1 to B12. So I'm just going to put A1 here because I just want the very first cell in the range. All right, I'll go ahead and do the long way. So I'm going to say range this, and then all I want is cells 1, 1. So I just want the very first cell of that range. All right, now I'm again getting RC is less than 7, R1C1 is less than 200. So now I can go to row 5 and ask for this formula. I can go to row 19 and ask for that formula. Now, this gave me a different formula because I'm asking again for A1 to A12. Well, this conditional format doesn't refer to that range. This conditional format refers to this cell here. So I'm going to put A19 in here. A19. All right, so now I get RC less than 7, RC1. So this is pretty dang complicated. In other words, if you want to compare the formulas for all the conditional formats on a given sheet, you have to do this application convert formula from R1C1 from A1 to R1C1, and you have to put in what it's relative to, which would be the first cell in this box. In this case, it's A19. So, complicated? Nobody said life was easy. Aloha.